So the penultimate round of the regular season for Super Rugby gets us underway. It's week 18 with the Battle of the South Island. So the Crusaders taking on the Highlanders over in Christchurch. It's an interesting one because it's one of the Highlanders are one of the only two teams that have beaten the Crusaders this season. Although that was at home, so that was their fortress where they're pretty hard to beat. This time they've got to do it away. And traditionally this season the Highlanders have not had their best nights when away from home. So we'll see how they go at Wyatt Crockett Stadium. The stadium's been renamed for this game in honour of Wyatt Crockett's 200th appearance, which is a massive result really for him. So we'll see if that makes things any more intimidating. Last season, or last result between these two teams in Dunedin was 25 points to 17. So yeah, pretty close, but comfortable victory for the Highlanders. But yeah, it's going to be a lot different prospect in Christchurch. In terms of the teams, in terms of Crockett, he's on the bench. Despite it being his 200th game, doesn't get a start, but he'll come on at some point for his 200th, so that'll be big for him. Kieran Reid is back, which is the kind of massive news for the Crusaders because he's been out for such a long time, so it's good to see him back at last. Makaleo starts at hooker ahead of Cody Taylor, which is an interesting pick. Jordan Taufua is on the bench, I guess with Reid back, that kind of makes sense. Hall gets the nod ahead of Drummond at number 9, and Israel Dagg, who is apparently fit and ready to go, doesn't make the cut. So Havili starts at 15, and Dagg is just sitting in the stands for this one. For the Highlanders, there's not too many changes from that team which lost in Fiji last week. Buckman starts ahead of Lee on the left wing. Squire is bracketed in with Dixon at 6 because he's not 100%, so they're going to kind of see how he goes and whether he's fit to play. There's no Hunt this week, so Lentjes is playing in the number 7 jersey. So yeah, for this one, we'll see if the Crusaders have any rust. I wouldn't have thought so. They played some games during the June test break, so they shouldn't have much rust. And yeah, they're well rested compared to the Highlanders. The Highlanders are coming back from Fiji and on 5 days rest. So if anything, everything seems stacked up for the Crusaders in this one to go out and dominate that game for Crocky in his 200th appearance. The short turnaround, the trip from Fiji, the fact that the Crusaders have had a bye, the fact that the Crusaders are at home, it all seems like the stars are aligned for the Crusaders to get a victory here. The Highlanders certainly won't be able to go out and surrender any kind of lead, let alone a 40-point lead. They'll need to come out of the blocks pretty quickly for this one if they're going to have a chance, you would have thought. But hey, it's always a pretty intense battle between these two teams. They don't like each other, so there might be a few fireworks, and it should be a good game. Hopefully the Highlanders can put up a bit of fight. In terms of their season, they need any points they can get after last week's dropping of some points. The Crusaders can really afford to drop points at this point, but I doubt they will. They're a pretty intimidating team to beat at home. The Crusaders are the favourites by 7 points for this one, so comfortable favourites, but the Highlanders still in with a chance. The next one sees the Rebels take on the Reds over in Brisbane. The Reds' record of 4 wins, 10 losses is not pretty reading in terms of the Rebels. 7 wins, 7 losses compared to last season where they were dead last is very encouraging. The last time they met was in week 2. It was the first round for both of these teams, and the Rebels won that one in Melbourne 45 points to 19. That is the game where Higginbotham got red carded and there was another yellow card to the Rebels, so they were to the Reds. So they were 15 on 13 for a few minutes in that game, and the Rebels really packed on some points. In terms of the standings, the Reds do not have a lot to play for other than avoiding the wooden spoon. For the Rebels, they are in a playoff spot, and their destiny is in their own hands, because if they win their 2 games, then they are pretty much guaranteed at least the trip to Christchurch to play the Crusaders. But like I said, that'd be a massive way to come compared to their results last year. But yeah, the pressure's on them to get a result because they've been a kind of hot and cold team this year, but as have the Reds. So the Reds have tended to pick things up against the better teams. So with the the Rebels being kind of a mid-table team, it'll be interesting to see how they show up. They've got a chance though to kind of give their fans something to cheer for, just because their last 2 games are at home. So it'd be nice for them to send them off with some kind of warm fuzzies. For the Reds, in terms of selection, their depth is being tested with a few injuries. Jordan Pataya is having to start at 13 because there's no Karevi, no Feawai Sautia. So we'll see how he goes. He played at schoolboy level at the midfield, so it's not that long ago because the guy's only 18. So we'll see how he steps up there, but you would think that would be an area for the Rebels to target. Timu is back at 6, and Rodder is back in the second row, so that's pretty good news for the Reds. Sorovi and Stewart get the starts at 9 and 10, despite a pretty lackluster performance last week, so we'll see if they're able to up their games, because yeah, they'll definitely need to be a lot sharper. For the Rebels, Korobidi is back, and Tetra Faulkner is back as well. Hardwick is also back on the bench, and the second row continues to be Parling and impressive Matt Phillips, so we'll see how they are able to challenge the likes of Rodder for the Reds. For the Reds, like I said, their season's pretty much over, but it's a good chance to get some experience for these guys, because it's got to be all about next season with the way Brad Thorne's building things. Obviously, to get beaten and beaten and beaten and beaten doesn't do these young guys that much good in terms of their mental game. It's certainly nice to pick up a few wins. They got 2 weeks left. It'll be a good chance for them to spoil what the Rebels are doing and to pick themselves up. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to play for. For the Rebels, it's absolutely all there. It's do or die. If there's a team which should be motivated, it's the Rebels. If there are fans which should be making a trip up to Queensland to cheer on their team, it's Rebels fans, because, like I said, 2 wins and they're in the finals, albeit in 8th, which is looking like a pretty daunting prospect, but still it would be a massive step for where the Rebels are going. So yeah, we'll see how they go. If they can win, they put the pressure on the Sharks and the other teams behind them to follow suit. But yeah, it's all kind of up in the air. The Rebels by 5 is what the bookies are saying, so they're the favourites. We'll see if they can get the job done, and see if the Rebels are the Reds. God Lord, I keep getting these guys mixed up. If the Reds can pick themselves up for one last week. Alright guys, let me know your thoughts on these games, and I will talk to you again soon. Alright, see you later.